Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you might be, folks. I'm happy to be here today to talk to you about Ignite and seller appointments. We're going to get started in a minute. Let me introduce.
Sorry. Hold on. Oh my goodness. Let me go back. There we go.
First class about the lead generation model, which we're going to cover today. And now I'm back for Ignite. So you did Spark, which was the beginning. That was the first, I believe there's 8 sessions, 8 or 9 Sparks, and the rest are actually Ignite. So Ignite, skills to spark a great career. Get it? Spark, Ignite. Makes sense, right? Spark starts a fire. Anyways, so today we're going to talk about buyer consultation. So I hope you're joining us. If you're in the room with us today, and we're going to cover real quick how you can participate. I'll go over it a couple times while we're doing this as well. If you're like Anna and Dan and Jeffrey and Lonnie and Ronnie, we have a Lonnie and a Ronnie in the room. Tiffany and Christina, you can raise your hand and click the little hand icon, and that's how I'll know you have a question. If you're watching us on KW Connect Live, so you're out in KW Connect Live land, you should see on the right-hand side of your screen, Slido.com 1437. So 1437 on Slido.com is how you can give your questions or comments. I am going to ask for things throughout the class today. Like I'm going to ask you for things, so I would appreciate it if I didn't have to make up what you were saying. Otherwise, I'm just going to make it up. So, but I'm going to blame you for it. So if I say something dumb, then it's on whoever the fake person is that I'm calling on, right? I guess that works. Perfect. So I also have company in the room today, Meg, who wrote the class, and the lovely Dawn, who is always here to make sure that, really to make sure I do what I'm supposed to do. That's Dawn's job. And to make sure the whole ship does what it needs to do. George is over that way. You guys don't know George, but he is the unsung hero of the world when it comes to us getting to you. Like, he pushes all the buttons, he makes sure everything's happened, so you guys can actually watch this from the comfort of your own market center or living room or vacation, wherever you are. If you're on vacation watching this, good for you. All right, let's jump in. So we've been through this. I think you've been through this every single session. What successful agents do every day. They either grow their business or run their business. Ideally, they're doing both of these things, but grow your business comes first, right? Lead generate for buyers and sellers. Make seller listing presentations and get listings. Make buyer presentation listings and get buyer listings. That's getting purchasers, right? And preview real estate. So we're going to focus today on number 3 of grow your business. Remember, run your business doesn't happen unless you do the grow your business things. So you're doing everything on the left before you're ever doing anything on the right. Ideally, that's how your day is set up as a real estate agent. Lead generate, make presentations, preview real estate. Both buyers and sellers. Today we're covering buyers. Set the appointment, prepare the buyer presentation, conduct the consult, recap, and create your success list. So you've set the appointment, right? You've set an appointment with someone. Now what happens next? And if it's your first one like me, you don't really know what to do next. When I started in real estate, I actually remember the first appointment I set, and I was like, I can't say the word that I thought in my head. But I was like, oh, crud, now what? So we're going to cover the now what today. We're going to cover the now what so you don't have to worry and do the same thing that I did. Make sense? Set the appointment. Lead gen model on the screen. I think my understanding is that we haven't seen the lead gen model in a few sessions. Like, it's been a few sessions since you saw the lead gen model, so we're going to cover it top to bottom real quick, and just, if you can't see, oh, I don't know what happened, but we're back. You can see we're in the yellow, so we're in the appointment phase. That's what we're covering today. However, lead generation model, top section is lead generation. That's prospecting-based marketing enhanced. We covered that on session 1 of Spark, having a prospect, well, session 2 technically, but it was kind of not the intro session, it was the first real session. Prospecting-based marketing enhanced business. All of that feeds your database. Your database, remember, is made up of at the very least 2 groups. Leads, where people we're having a one-way conversation with, and contacts who we're having a two-way conversation with. So at that point, that makes up your whole database. You're probably segmenting your database in way more ways than just those two, but at very least those two. At some point, the people in your database, some of them show intent to buy or sell real estate. Chances are that's around 6.37% per year of the people in your database are showing intent to buy or sell real estate, right? They drop into your sales pipeline. This is where we try not to forget people. They drop into Cultivate, where you're nurturing and qualifying those people. People that end up in Cultivate typically are the ones that if we don't do a good job, we see on Facebook in 2 months have bought a house and they didn't do it with us because we forgot to nurture and qualify them because we haven't set the appointment yet. Hopefully all of those people you're setting the appointment with, chances are it's not all, but most. And then we go to the appointment. Forget what happens after that. We're only worried about the appointment today. Does this all make sense? If it doesn't make sense, raise your hand. If it does make sense, raise your hand. Cool. Slido.com 1437. I will give you a break to ask any questions about the lead gen model before we jump in. And the break for these as well. Cool. No questions, which either means I crushed it or you're so confused you don't even know what to ask. Hopefully it's the first. All right, role modeling, setting the appointment. We're not actually going to role model that today, but your script book will help you do that, right? You can go to your script book and you can figure out the scripts you need. And in your classroom, if you guys are in a classroom together in a market center somewhere, you guys can role model this after class or potentially you could this before class. But check your script book for the scripts around your buyer consult, around setting the appointment on page 18. So page 18 of your script book is where you can find those. And what are the 3 objectives of the buyer consultation? I don't know. What do you think are the objectives of the buyer consultation? I know what my #1 objective of the buyer consultation is. Sign the buyer, right? Like I want to leave that appointment with a client. I want to leave there knowing that I have a new client in my pipeline that I'm going to help buyers. I'm going to help buy a piece of real estate, right? Get the buyer agreement signed, anonymous, 100%. Get the buyer agreement signed is the #1 goal of that appointment. That would probably be the only goal. I mean, you want to deepen a relationship there too. That's something else I would want to really do is deepen the relationship and cement that relationship with the person. Bring them immense value. If you do that, if you bring someone a ton of value during your buyer presentation, you're going to both get a buyer agreement signed and deepen the relationship. I always concentrate on that. How am I, when I think about meeting with a buyer, and I'm thinking back to the conference room at the Southwest Market Center that I used to do a lot of my buyer appointments in, I always wanted them to leave that meeting and be like, man, I would be stupid not to use this guy. Like, he knows so much. I learned something today as a buyer, right? Those are the things you're trying to get people to think, but you're not trying to get them to think that way just by telling them you're smart. You need to demonstrate that. So get a buyer agreement signed, get to know the values, wants, and needs of your buyer. 100%. It's a great one from an anonymous person on Slido. I have a feeling I know who that is. Get to know the values, wants, and needs of your buyer. We're going to go through that today. I think what you're going to see is a lot of the things you want to get out of that buyer appointment are things that are in the presentation we're going to look at in Command, right? I'm just telling you off the cuff how I think about it. We're going to give you a guide to how you could think about it too. So set the appointment, 3 objectives, get the buyer agreement signed and get to know the values, wants, and needs of your buyer, deepen the relationship, bring value, all sorts of things. All right, my keyboard stopped again. That's okay though. So we want to actually prepare the buyer presentation. So in Command, you can actually go create the buyer presentation. So using designs in Command, and I'm going to ask a question of my helpers in the room. Do you want me to actually demonstrate? No, no need? Cool. So in Command, on the far left-hand side of the screen, if you go to design.
And pause it real quick. Do y'all have any questions?
Where can we find these? Are they on, I guess they're on.
They're on the Onward page.
Onward, okay.
Here, let me minimize this real quick.
And is there where we would find that book he's talking about, or?
Yeah, on the Onward, you just go to the KW Onward group,
Okay.
and you go all the way down, and you guys should see like the Ignite toolkit, student handout, and then the videos.
Okay.
And but I think it's in the handouts where all this, and that's where the printouts is.
And so the scripts, is that what he was talking about? The script book?
Yes. Let me go to Zoom real quick and see. Do y'all have any questions on Zoom? You're good?
No.
Okay. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna. And I'm always here if y'all have any questions. I'll put my information in here. Okay.
It's that's like towards the bottom third of the icons on the left. Designs, you can create a new buyer presentation. And the awesome team up at marketing has created I believe there's 2 unique buyer presentations in there for you to choose from. Now, you can either take that buyer presentation exactly as it is and go use it. I would suggest absolutely reading the whole thing first and modifying some of the language that you want to use, adding anything about you that you want, your contact information and your name, your logo if you have one, all that can be added to the presentation. So what are the resources in your market center for help with command? That's a great question to ask whoever it is in the room with you today or your market center. Who are the people in your office that can help you if you get stuck? I can tell you it should be your market center tech trainer, whoever that person is. If you don't know who...
I'm going to pause that. Yeah, if you guys have any questions on, videos, anything going on technology-wise, Christina, she's there to help you guys. If y'all need her number, I will post it here shortly. But she's my to-go person whenever I'm having any trouble, anything with command. If you're struggling, she's really good.
Who that person is, find out. Ask your teacher, your in-room facilitator of this class, ask your team leader, ask your director of agent services, ask your DOFI, that's director of first impressions, by the way. Ask them who your help is inside the market center with command. So other places you can go. Answers.kw.com is a place you can go to get started with designs. KW.com tech-enabled agent page. Chat with support using the question mark in command. Answers.kw.com is a great place to go get resources if you don't know what to do. The question mark and chatting with support, think about that as a place if you think something is broken. Support isn't, I don't know where to go. Support is, I think it's broken, right? That's where we're trying to go when we have things that are broken. Answers.kw.com or the tech-enabled agent page are both the places I would go if you don't know what to do or where to go. Perfect. So answer real quick. I'll give you guys 30 seconds to ask the facilitator in the room with you or figure out who that person is in your market center. Write that name down on your guide. I'm going through your guide with you, by the way. And then we're going to jump in and look at an example buyer presentation. I don't think we expect you to go to designs and build this while we're doing it. We're just going to look at some examples in the guide you have in front of you. All right. Any questions? Again, Slido.com 1437 is how you can get your questions answered today. Let's talk about the actual buyer presentation and the key components. So there looks to be 7 sections here, right? Your dream home, your preferences, your neighborhood, buying 101, at your service, my promise, and the glossary. My guess is going to be we're not going to spend too much time on the glossary today. We're going to spend time in the first 6. So let's talk about your dream home, the very first section. And you've got an example of that right here in front of you. on your guide, right? Yeah, like I do this, like Vanna White, here you go. And if you turn it over, we're going to answer 2 questions here. What are the goals for this page in the buyer presentation? And how you would customize this page, what questions would you change? So we're going to look at this example page and think about, I would take your time, write this down. I'm going to give you time to do this, right? Let's read over it together. It looks like there's a section that talks about your dream home, right? Your needs drive how and when we find your next home. Visualize your dream scenario for buying your home. If we could add just one more thing to make this process even better, what would it be? I love that question, by the way. You look at all those questions on the right-hand side. One of the things I think, I don't know if this is where I would necessarily talk about it, but I'm going to try and give you guys like buyer presentation pointers as we go on. I always used to use this line in buyer presentations. There is no perfect home, right? Like the perfect home doesn't exist. There's always going to be some give and take when you're out there representing a buyer. Think of this page as setting the tone for the appointment, establishing the buyer needs, wants, and values as the center of the relationship. This is a good way to open the door. You're if you're meeting this person potentially for the first time or the first time in a one-on-one situation, maybe you met them at an open house and had a relatively casual conversation. A buyer's meeting can feel formal, and I'd say that the sooner you can get through that formality and establish some tone for the meeting, you're going to be in a better spot. This page can do that. What's the one thing that has to happen to make that dream scenario a reality, right? So what we're trying to do is figure out what the buyer wants out of this purchase. What are they going for here? Is this a first-time home buyer? Are they moving up, moving down? What's the goal they're trying to realize from this this purchase?
I'm gonna pause it.
Really important.
Okay, so this is, I think, was he talking about? The buyer's consultation? Is that what he was saying?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, the video was off. There you go. Usually whenever I go to a buyer's appointment, I usually just go in. I don't want to sound so like salesy, because they're gonna be like, really? But I just go in and the first thing I tell them is are you renting or do you own a house? Because sometimes they're just wanting to sell and buy another, or if they've been renting for a while, that's when they really want to buy. The first thing I just go in is what exactly are you looking for? That way I know, because you're going to put them on a search. So usually oh, well, we've been looking for about, well, we haven't really just been looking, we just been on Zillow or, whatever. And I was like, well, let me set you guys on a search. That way you guys have a better understanding of what's coming soon and what's active on the market. That way it gives you a better understanding on what's really out there. And so they really like that because they do want to see. And then you just tell them, okay, well, I'm going to set you up on a portal. This is what I do. Everybody works different, but I just tell them, well, let me set you up on a portal. Fill me in on how many bedrooms, how many baths, and that way in your search you kind of have a better understanding of what all you're looking for. And then let me go ahead.
I'm sorry, what is the portal?
It's the portal on MLS whenever you set them up. Usually that's my go-to, and that would be y'all's go-to. Once you get familiarized with MLS, you'll use that to set them up on a search. So I do that. I set them up on a search, and then I tell them, let me introduce you to a preferred lender. That way it gives you guys a better understanding how the whole process works. They get into your personal finances, and I just feel like that's very separate, and I don't need to know. So let me get you, and I will group, I will text that preferred lender, and then I will put it in a group text. That way they know that I know and I'm on it, because it shows, you know, your gratitude, like, man, this person really wants to help me, and thank you. And it gives the lender a better understanding, like, okay, I can't forget because, you know, she's on there. And because the lender works with a lot of realtors. So I had it happen where they forgot to call my buyer, and I follow up and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't follow up. I'm just like, oh my God, these people are like calling me. They want like to purchase now. So I just group a preferred lender and send it to them. And then I do a follow up, and then, and it usually works out. And then ask them their budget and to stay within their budget. So that's important. Do you have any questions?
Do you usually stick with the same lender?
Okay, so I'm Spanish speaking as well, and so I try to work with 3 lenders, because you just never know. There's first-time homeowner programs for first-time homeowners that never bought, and then there's down payment assistant programs that different lenders use. Some lenders don't do the first-time homeowner assistance and the down payment, and then there's some lenders that, you know, that work with all that. So I at least give them like 3 preferred lenders that I trust and that I have worked with. So it just works. And sometimes I'll just give it to them like, okay, there's 3 people that I work with, you're more than welcome. But I've tried that, and usually they don't know who to choose, because they've never worked with a lender before. So I just kind of go with the preferred lender that I have worked with and that I trust and that knows my clients and that really goes that extra mile to work with them and see what they could be eligible for. Absolutely. But that's what I usually, and that's how I group text it. And then for like my Spanish speaking lenders, I'll do the same thing. So yeah. Okay, I'm gonna share the video. Yeah, you're welcome.
Important third question, how can you make that happen for them? This is setting expectations. Setting expectations. If you set expectations really early on, it's going to be easy to win. If we know what winning looks like, that's what question this is. What does winning look like for me and you here, right? And why is that important? If we get just one more thing to make this process even better, what would it be? So like, what's the icing on top? That's I think of it, if you're building a cake, what's the icing, right? If we talk about the dream scenario being the cake, then the one more thing is the icing and the sprinkles and whatever else you're putting on top of your cake. I just made that up. So that may or may not make sense to you, but I like cake, so we'll talk about it. Mm-hmm. And then why is that important? You see, we continue to go to the why is that important. So now's where I'm going to go out to you guys in Slido land, or to Lottie and Ronnie and Lisa and Jeffrey and Dan that are all in the room with us. What do you think you would do? What are some of the questions you would change on this page? So if you're out there in Slido land, slido.com/1437, what are some of the questions you would change or add to this page? I'm going to give you a second because those of you in Connect land don't realize you're actually 30 seconds behind me. So I have to wait. I don't have a choice. I like to go fast. And I don't know about you, but if you're in Central Time Zone, it's lunchtime. Who hasn't had lunch yet? That's everyone in the room, by the way, has not had lunch yet. But we're not going to rush through this. We just want to make sure you guys get some time to answer these questions. How would you customize this page? What questions would you change? Cool. One of the things you might put on there, or you may have put on there, is like how many bedrooms and bathrooms you're looking for. We're not quite there yet. These are higher level questions on this page. We're going to get to those next.
I think the questions that I usually ask is, one, what area are you looking into? Because you don't want to navigate them in an area that they're not wanting to be in. And then I would say, well, how many bedrooms, how many baths are you looking for? And then they'll say, 3, 2. And then that's whenever they're not pre-approved, I usually start them from 199 to 250 on the MLS search for them. That way it kind of gives them an idea of the amount. Once you get their pre-approval and they're a little higher, then I just go in there and I'll adjust it. And I tell them, okay, I'm gonna set you up on a search, and it's gonna be just, just from 199 to 250. And then once I get your pre-approval, if it's more, then I'll bump it up to what you're pre-approved. But that way they have an idea what's out there, because they don't know what's out there. Or they'll look at a house, they'll be like, oh, well, I saw this house, and then like I'll get on the MLS, and then it's already so active upon contract. I'm like, oh, it's already in contract. They're like, oh, well, it doesn't say on this, on like realtor.com or Zillow. I'm just like, yeah, they don't update for some odd reason. So that's what I usually do, is just ask those questions. But area is really good, because you don't want to steer them into an area that they're just not wanting whatsoever. So that's usually my first question, is like, what area do you want to stay in?
You start stepping up on a search before you meet them in person, or are you getting them to come in with you and then setting up the search criteria?
I do both. Usually, like if you're on phone duty, and you're talking to them, they're like, well, I'm interested in buying and stuff like that. Well, give me your information. Let's talk. And so I'll just kind of like ask, well, what area are you looking at, or what house did you look at? And, go from there. I'm like, okay, well, send me your email, send me your first and last name. Let me set you up on a portal. And then I'll follow up later on that day. And then I'll ask, like, when's a good time to meet face to face? I'm available and flexible to your hours. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I try not to sound so salesy, because that literally drives people away. Like, I try not to do that. So I'm like, well, I'm flexible to your schedule. So what's a good time for you? And they're like, oh, well, I mean, I work during the week, but can you do it on a Saturday? Like, absolutely. And then that's when you could say, okay, does morning or afternoon work? And they're like, can you do more like evening? Yes. And I usually just I just come to the office in the conference room, and I'll take my laptop, and they have a TV in there, and I just plug it in, and kind of, that's when I do like a little pinpoint, like, okay, well, these are what's active, and you just kind of introduce, a meet and greet. And that's when like it's a for sure, I mean, everybody like works their, I mean, how I do a buyer's appointment, you'll probably do it different. And I mean, you'll know, like, okay, these people are for sure. I've had people ghost me, and I'm just like, really? But it happens. And if they don't get pre-approved, then you just let them on the search, keep them on the search, because eventually they will be pre-approved, and they will do what that preferred lender told them. Yeah.
Sorry, and do we offer any kind of, hey, can I check back with you in a month?
Yes.
See where you are in your getting prepared to get financed?
Yes.
Can we, ask them and say, is there anything I can help you with? Do you need any resources that
Yes, I always tell them.
You don't know what to do. That's kind of where I want to, Madeline said, to find a niche. And I really want to try to help people. Like, if they do come to us and they're like, I really want to buy a house, but I don't know where to start. And we look and they get all excited, and then they have no chance whatsoever financially, because I've been in that spot.
Yeah.
So just because they have that, like, kind of give them this is what you need to do first, and let me know if you need any help, and you can always ask me questions. Just kind of be there.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think
ask those questions.
I think you should. I mean, as an agent, I always do. You don't want to discourage them not purchasing a home down the line. I've been denied twice, and I was just like, well, hell, like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna rent for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But I was just like, no. And then my lender was like, you're just 10 points away from being pre-approved.
Yeah.
And then that's when you're like, oh my God, you can knock this out in like 3 months. Let's just focus on this.
Yes.
But that lender, whoever you go with, they will literally, tell them, man, you're really close. Don't let just this, tell you like, no, tell your mind, yes, you will get this done. You will be a homeowner, and just keep going. Cause we're all human. Once we get like a no, I'm just like, I'm the most sensitive person. I'm just like, what the heck? Like, I have feelings. well, I'm not gonna do it then. And they're like, no, we can't do that. You know, like,
So we can kind of help be their cheerleader,
yeah,
and then they know they can. get
Yeah,
excited about
absolutely.
it, and then, okay.
yeah.
Next, that was a segue, by the way.
And they like that
Build
too.
your
They want
preference
that.
profile. That's the next section. The what, the when, and the how. Let's talk about the best way to get in touch. I don't know, do we provide them a buyer intake sheet of any kind, like a generic buyer intake sheet? Yes, so there is a buyer intake sheet, it sounds like. That's what a lot of these questions are, right? Like, how do you want to set expectations around communication? That also goes for you setting expectations with them, right? So how do they want to be communicated to and at what frequency? And how do you want to be communicated to and at what frequency and times? I think one of the biggest things that I fell into as a new agent was I felt like I had to literally be available 24/7. That's not true. People understand that we have lives. Even though when you're new and you don't have any clients, it feels like this is your life because it needs to be, because you need to make that commission check. Don't get commission breath. That's what I call it. When you're desperate, right? You need, like, you can see that first commission check in your bank account almost. Like maybe it's a big, one of my very first buyers that was like at a higher than normal price point. Like they were in for me, like my average price point when I was new was like in the low 300s. So it's pretty good for a lot of you guys out there. That's great. Like a $9,000 average commission check. But I got my first buyer that was buying in the 600s, and I felt like I hit the lottery. And like I did my best not to have commission breath with those people because that represented the same amount of money as 2 transactions for me. So it was a big deal. So the basics, have you considered who the main point of contact will be? If you're working with business partners or a husband and wife or a husband and husband or a wife and wife, typically there's one person that's driving the conversation, that's the driver of the transaction. Figure out who that's going to be. And a lot of times, like, they usually always know who it is, right? I just got done, this works for a listing, right?
This is really important. I mean, when you're at a buyer's appointment and you're, you know, you're in front of the husband and wife, you know, the wife is going to tell you everything she wants. But like sometimes, you know, I'll listen to her. I mean, I listen to both, right? But I ask, okay, husband, what do you want? You know, what are you looking, you know, for the house? Because that gives them like, oh, well, I want this, and you know, and they like that. They want their opinion to be heard. I know. Well, my husband, I'm just like always like, okay, we need this, we need this, we need to do this, you know, whatever. And he's just like, okay, you know, whatever. And then I gotta take a step back. I'm like, man, I gotta practice what I preach because what do you want? You know, like, do you want this accent wall? Like, if you don't want it, it's all good. But in my mind, I'm like, yes, I do want it, you know, like, but I always ask, you know, like both of them. I'll be like, okay, well, I know you want the 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and what are you looking for in it? And I think that kind of boosts their like, okay, she's neutral instead of just like one person, and that's really important.
This is going to be the same conversation you have if you're at a listing or a buyer. I just had a listing that closed, and the husband drove all of the conversation. Like, for sure, he was the guy to talk to. He then communicated to me. It was very easy because we'd established that up front. If you establish it up front, then you know if you're reaching out to the wrong person the whole time, you're not going to get what you need, which is answers. Mm-hmm. What timeline would you like to strive for? Like, how quickly do you need to be into this house? Do you need to move in a month or 3 months or 6 months? Have you looked into getting pre-approved for your home loan? There's nothing worse than going to show homes to someone who has no idea what they can afford. Mm-hmm. Because they're always going to look at things that are more expensive than what they can actually afford. Like, just all of us in general want nicer things than we can have. So it's just life. And this goes for every price range, by the way. I was working with a buyer. We never ended up closing. They came in town. They were moving to Chicago from Austin. Their budget was $3.5 million. You would think that I could buy anything that I wanted for $3.5 million. Turns out that's not true. They loved all the stuff that was $4 million, and all the stuff that was $3.25 just wasn't quite nice enough. So it doesn't matter if you're working with a $200,000 buyer or a $2 million buyer. Everyone is going to be looking to the next level, whatever that is. So really important to establish that pre-approval So you're not chasing in the future. You do not want your buyers chasing a house that they can't afford, because it's going to be really hard to get them to something that they're happy with. Have you thought about the price range you'd be comfortable with? This goes right along with the pre-approval. Just because they get pre-approved for $500,000 doesn't mean they want to spend the $500,000. That's also common. Hey, just because I can afford it doesn't mean I want to spend it. If I found a home today that checks all the boxes, could you see yourself making a move sooner rather than later? Said differently, here's how I ask that question in a buyer consultation. If we found you a perfect home tomorrow, is that too soon? Right? Ask that question and you're going to get really clear on what's too soon or not too soon. That's with them understanding that it's going to take 30 days to close most likely. If we found the perfect home tomorrow, is that too soon? It's a great question to ask. So it's on here. You can say it however you want. When you think about scripts, and I know you guys have a script book that you're going through Ignite with, scripts are just the language that you use every time to ask the questions you need to ask. That's my script. Doesn't sound like a script when I say it because I say it all the time. If we find you the perfect house tomorrow, is that too soon? Is my script. Your script doesn't have to be that. It can be that same exact question in different words. We're gonna go to some Slido, either questions or comments. I like to ask how they see themselves living in the home. It's a great question. Do they entertain? Are you having Thanksgiving for 30? Do you have frequent guests? Right? Like, do you entertain a lot, or are you at home by yourself a lot? Where do you spend most of your time, right? If you spend most of your time in your living area, I was just going through this with buyers the other day. They actually looking at really, really nice homes, but they don't need a giant master bedroom. Like, they don't need a giant master suite. They don't spend any time there. They want their room in the living space. What are the most important things I can do to make you want to give me a 5-star review at the conclusion of your transaction? Right? Great question. Said differently, what can I do to make sure that you would never use another realtor again in your life? You would never ask that question. How do you say that in your words that is comfortable? Why are you buying a house? What's the why? Right? What's their why around buying a house? So this is build your preference. Guess what? You have places to fill in. What information do you need to collect in a preference profile? I think outside of communication information, that's name, phone number, email address, physical address. Physical address. Notice I said physical address, even though they're going to be moving. We want to know where people live. It's important. When do they like to be talked to? How do they like, what are their expectations around communication? I think this is a really, really key one, right? My business partner and I go back and forth on this a lot. Understanding, and when I said communicating to them what they can expect from you, this is what I mean. If you send me a text message, you can expect to hear back from me within the hour. If you call me, you can expect to hear back from me within the same business day. If you email me, you can expect to hear back with me by the next day. Whatever you set the standard for your businesses is what you should communicate to your clients. Very, very, very important to do that up front. It's going to make you look like a professional too, just so you know. There's no professional organization you're going to call that's not going to give you some sort of similar things, right? You're going to leave a voicemail for a doctor and they're going to say all voicemails will be returned by the end of business same day or by the next business day. Figure out.
I actually just started this as in like when you set up your voicemails. I usually, because I have kids and I have young kids, and I mean, when you get into real estate, you're just on go mode because you're trying to get, situated. Everything's very overwhelming. But sometimes you got to reflect, okay, I need to set expectations, because if you go all in, like no expectations, just, returning their phone call right away or, whatnot, they're going to expect it all the time. And there's times when you're just going to get busy and you're going to be like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm in a meeting, but let me go ahead and can I call you like in an hour or after? And you'll get like the okay, but they're like, well, she used to just always, answer my phone, but you'll get busy. I mean, I don't know how you guys are right now, as in like, have you got any buyers or?
I do, actually, I have Okay, so there are buyers, somebody that I know, but they got pre-approved right away. Um, but they have a contingency on the loan that they have to sell the property,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not sure to sell it because they have kids, and they're like, okay, what if we sell it and then we don't have a property because the property that they're looking for is very specific and there's not a lot of it.
I've had that
And I'm
happen.
like, okay, I'm
So-
overwhelmed with that right now.
Yeah, but you gotta, okay, to ease them, if they're like, oh my God, we're gonna be homeless. But that's why you're like, okay, you're not gonna be homeless because I'm not gonna do that to you. And we're gonna get a lease back. That way you have a time frame and we just have to get in there and just hustle it and look at houses and whatnot. I just did a transaction like that.
Really, I really need guidance on that because I'm actually meeting them today to see a house,
Yeah.
but they still haven't decided to put the house in the market, and I'm thinking they have to me, they have to.
Yeah, but and that's okay. I mean, I think if I was like going in, I would be like, oh my goodness, like what's going on here? But you're like, okay, just go in, just even though you don't know what's gonna happen, just go in and say, okay, look, I'm gonna ease your mind, and we're gonna put your house on the market, and we're gonna request a lease back because we're not gonna leave you homeless.
Like what's the maximum that they can
I
get
do
on the
four.
lease back?
I do 4 weeks.
4 weeks?
Yeah, because you're looking at houses, and I would say book 4 houses a day, for them. That's what I do. You don't want to do more than 4 because they're not gonna know by the 3rd house what they're looking at and what they want, and that's just gonna be too much. I just do 4.
Okay. Per
And-
week. Is that what you say?
I mean, I do. However times you're gonna go see houses, I just go in there and I just hustle it. Okay. Well, if they don't, if sorry, if they're working from home and they have that flexibility, book 4 houses within that time frame. I've shown about 20 houses a week, but each day as you're booking, print out the MLS, go show that house, and they're gonna know. They're not gonna feel overwhelmed. So just do that, and then request that 4-week lease back whenever you do put that house on the market. That way, the other agent has a better understanding on what your client's looking for.
And I can always push it back like 7 days to 45 days because I know it should take about around 30 to 45 days.
As long as the other side agrees to it.
Oh, okay. Okay,
So-
yes, so I'm trying ways to help them, but as I go, I'm learning. I've been learning so much with them because
Yeah.
I'm researching a lot on
Yeah.
things that I can do, but still, I'm like, I really want to help them because I don't want them to be homeless.
Yeah, I have that. I just closed on my listing last week,
Okay.
and we're closing Tuesday on their house that they just bought. It was craziness. It was, it's a little stressful on us because we take in that heat, but try to make them secure and just ease as possible. And that 4-week lease back will probably guarantee you more than time to find them a house and get them under contract.
Okay.
So
Okay.
go into that. Whenever you go look at houses and like, you know what, I was just thinking, and for you guys to make it easier on you guys, let's request a lease back to give you guys a better, not feel so pressured in a tight time frame for that. And that usually kind of, bless you, that usually takes weight off their shoulders.
Mhm.
I had a listing consultation, and they're gonna list their house, and it's gonna be the same thing. And I found them. I was doing an open house, and they had another agent, and they're like, man, this agent wanted me to sell and stuff like that, but I'm gonna be homeless. And I never want to like take anybody's clients away. I'm like, well, and I gave them my business card. I'm like, tell your agent to call me, if you have any questions on the house. But they text me like minutes after they left. I'm like, is there any way you could like work with me? Or, how can we like go based on this? And so I'm just like, well, have you signed anything? She was like, yeah, we did, and stuff like that. I was like, well, then you have to terminate with them, but I'll be more than happy to help you. And so, you know, me and my teammate, we had a, you know, a listing appointment, and it was that they're like, well, we got to sell, we want to buy, we need a little more room. And so she got pre-approved, and they have to fix some stuff before anything. And so now that they fixed, we're going to list their house. But it's just having a little more security on their end to do that.
Okay, so would you show houses while they're fixing their house?
Oh, absolutely.
Because one of the things that I know is like, as a new agent, I'm like, I don't want to get really excited. So that was my thought, like, oh my gosh. And then, because they had a house that they loved and that they found the other day. And I called the other agent, and he asked me if they had any contingencies. And I was like, yes, they do. And he's like, well, I don't think my seller wants to even consider anything like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as you can, well, he's an ass if he said that,
Yeah,
because I mean, everybody, you never know what kind of client you're going to get. And you always go that, well, I always go that extra mile, and I always communicate with the other agent. I'm like, look, I have strong buyers. They, you know, this, that, whatever. What can I do to just get in there and, you know, what can I do to accommodate your sellers? And he was like, oh, well, and I was like, I'll pay for title policy. I'll pay for a new survey. You know, just talking to him. I mean, building a communication relationship with the other agent is really important. And I do it all the time. And so far, I've been lucky enough to get them into something. You just, I mean, you're going to get agents who are like, no, we're not interested. I just got my VAs under contract. And one of the house that they wanted, the agent told me straight at flat was like, we're not accepting VA. I'm like, well, you didn't put him on the MLS. And we're at an open house, and he told in front of my buyers. That was horrible. That frustrated me. Like, you don't do that. You're a bad agent. You know, like I was like, this agent literally just told my buyers this. That frustrated me. He works at a different brokerage, but you don't do that, and you don't want to mess with people like that either. So, but whenever you're out there representing your buyers, just communicate with the other agent. It doesn't hurt to even ask. You know, the worst thing they could say, you know, is no. Like, okay, well, you know, on to the next, you know, and go from there.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
What your communication cadence is with your clients and communicate that to them. Newsflash, don't communicate something that you can't follow through on. If you tell them that you're going to respond to all text messages within the hour, respond to all text messages within an hour. Also, are those times different during business days and not during business days, or during business hours and not during business hours? Be clear on whether or not you respond to things outside of business hours, right? I told you that one of the biggest mistakes I made when I first started in real estate was feeling like if my clients tried to get a hold of me, regardless of the time or day, I needed to respond right away. It's a dangerous game to play. You start to become the on-demand real estate agent for your client. And that's not necessarily always what they're looking for. Usually our clients don't want to call us at 8 p.m. at night any more than they want us to call, right? They don't want to call us any more than we're hoping that they call. However, when they're doing that, that's telling me they need information that we haven't given them. I need to do a better job of giving them information so they don't feel like they need to call me at 9 p.m. on a Sunday, right? Record their preferences in Command so you can keep track of their preferences. Exactly right. Great post there from Anonymous. Inside of Command, you can choose what their preference style is, what their communication is. Leave a note in their Command record. You might even create a custom field in Command around when the best time to contact them is. So, what information you need to collect? I'm going to go ahead and put this out there to the Slido universe, 1437 slido.com. What are some pieces of information you think you'd like to collect from your people? And what are some ahas you've had talking about this section? Cool things I've heard here. What's your favorite candy bar? I know people that ask that question because they like to send candy at some point during the process. We always send cookies once we pass our option period or inspection period. What's your favorite kind of cookie? It's helpful to know that if you're going to send your client cookies during the transaction. Another thing you could ask here, this is an interesting one you may not think of, right? We oftentimes buy a bottle of wine or alcohol for our clients at closing. It's one of the things we provide as a closing gift. It'd be helpful to know if your clients don't drink. You don't want to buy them alcohol as a closing gift if they don't drink. So give me your ahas and questions here, slido.com 1437.
So what I do is I usually, whenever I get new buyers and, you know, we're already, this is just something what I do, and we're already like under contract, I'll send like a tip treat to their home and just letting them know, like, thank you for trusting me and, you know, in this house search for you guys. Fingers crossed we get to closing table. And I usually just do that because I'm so appreciated for them trusting me in everything and being there to help them. I know it's stressful for them already, but just easing it through the process. And this is why we do what we do. And then for closing gifts, I usually just do, I ask the husband, like, do you like whiskey or do you like wine, or what's your preference? And they use like whiskey. And so I'll just get like a whiskey and wine in like a little basket, and I'll usually just give them to that on closing. That's just something that I do. But once you guys know what you guys want to do, I mean, some people do like the rugs or like the little welcoming signs or something. Do y'all have any questions? No? Zoom, are you guys okay? Do y'all have any questions?
I don't.
Okay. No? Okay.
No, we're
I just
good.
want to make sure. Okay, okay.
Your home wish list. After the communication piece, what are the things you're looking for in a home? That's our next section here. This is going to be the sheet that saves you from viewing 90 homes to buy one. All right? Here's a great script to start this section. Right as you're about to start the wish list section. Hey, Tiffany, one of the things I want to cover next is what are your wish list items in your home? Most of my clients find the perfect home within 6 houses of showing because we do this at a high level, right? I can ask you a ton of questions now and we can see very few homes, or I can ask you just a few questions now and we can see a ton of homes. I value your time, so I'd rather ask you a lot of questions now so we can maximize our time in the field than the other way around, right? So, who's living in the home? Adults, children, pets? What are some non-negotiables? Here's a way to think about it that people might be used to from HGTV shows, because they're gonna, by the way, they all watch HGTV and they all think that they're gonna get a house from Fixer Upper, everyone. What are your must-haves and nice-to-haves? Must-haves and nice-to-haves. What are the things that the house has to have? And what are the things that are just nice-to-haves? We're going to worry about checking off all the must-haves, and the nice-to-haves are going to be the icing on the cake. So that's the non-negotiable section. If you had to name your top 5 non-negotiables, what would they be? Here was my script for this. Hey, we want to make a list of your must-haves and nice-to-haves. Must-haves might be 3 or 4 or 5 things. Nice-to-haves might be 15 or 20. We're going to try and get the 3, 4, or 5, and as many of the 20 as possible. The 3, 4, or 5 are going to be the focus. We're walking through this. You know what's funny is I'm reading this and thinking in my head, it's exactly how I would think about this. Beyond your top 5 needs, what are something you really want? How old a home do you like? New or old? Move-in condition, or are you willing to do some work? When people visit your home, what do you want it to say about you? It's a good question. I don't know how I would answer that if I was being asked that. It's a good question, though. Are there any specific features that would make your next house feel instantly like home? Also, are there any specific features that would immediately disqualify a home from you purchasing it? What are some things that would disqualify a home immediately? This is a good place to set up something you might say during showings, right? One of the things I might say here while we're going on showings is this: at any point that we walk into a house and you realize it's not the house for you, tell me. You're not going to offend me, but I want to be very mindful of your time. So let's not spend a time walking through a house if you know instantly.
I run into this a lot. Sometimes on the MLS, it will like catfish them, like, oh well, look bigger on the website, or like and you would just tell like their face expression. I'm like, and I always say, okay, if you don't like this house, we could go on to the next. It's not a big of a deal. I mean, this is your investment. This is your investment, your home. Whatever you want to do. I'm here to help you. So if you don't like this house, let's not even continue walking this house, just on to the next. And they're like, okay, yeah, we're just not a fan or whatever. I'm like, okay, good. No problem. On to the next. And then, that way they're comfortable enough to say something, because we act through emotion and we never want to like say what we really feel, because we get like intimidated, because I'm the same way. So I'm always like, yeah, I'm all right. And then you're really not okay. So just always say, trust me, I've been in your shoes. Just be honest with me. If you don't like it, it's all good. You're not going to hurt my feelings, because I'm here for you. And if you don't like this house, I don't want to put you in a house you don't like. And they're like, oh my God, thank you. Yes. And then therefore.
It's not the one. Right? That's again, letting your client know that their time is important to you, and a newsflash, your time is important too. There's no point in walking through a bunch of houses that you know that no one's going to buy. So if you understand the things that would make a house immediately disqualified, when you see those, when they send you properties to look at, you can say, hey, I remember in our conversation, you said that a 1-car garage you would not do. You had to have at least 2-car garage. Well, the house you just sent me has a 1-car garage. You still want to see it. If so, maybe we need to revisit your must-haves and nice-to-haves list. And by the way, that's okay. There's lots of things that people think they need in a house until they actually see a house without it and love it. So the must-haves and nice-to-haves might change also. And will you require any accessibility options, right? Be mindful of the fact if anyone has a hard time getting around or has any disabilities or needs accessibility options, that's something that you'll have to look at too, right? Are they caring for an elderly parent that might need a walk-in shower and there's no walk-in showers in the home? Do they need a ramp or stairs a problem? Guess what? Home wish list questions. What are some things you might ask during your buyer consult, home wish list style? Slido.com 1437. Again, you could go down at square footage, when the home was built, bedrooms and bathrooms, garage, single story, 2-story, multi-level, back to green space, back to other homes. Does it have to have a fence because they have pets? You could go on and on and on. And a really easy way to get questions here is to go look at your MLS. And for a lot of you that are new, you may haven't even logged into the MLS yet. All of the things you can filter for in the MLS make great questions during your buyer consult. The more of them you ask, the less houses you're going to have to show. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Showing houses isn't a bad thing. Your clients don't want to go see 60 houses or 70 houses. That doesn't serve anyone the best. Another thing you can do is you want to start to set up your showings here. This is where you set up that conversation, right? Mr. and Mrs. Seller, or Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, sorry. When we go see houses, I'm never going to schedule more than 5 or 6 at a time, right? I would never schedule more than 5 or 6 showings at once. Why? Because they all start to run together. And you never remember which one you do. Mm-hmm. The other thing you can set up here, after we...
That's why I don't do 5 or 6. I do 4, just because they get overwhelmed. Like, they're just like, oh, the drive, the commute, just walking it, making that decision. Like, man, because they'll look, and usually, like, if they've never owned a home, it's too much for them, and so 5, 6, I've done it, but it's not worth it. I usually just do 4, but you guys, whatever your client is comfortable with and whatever you think is okay, then by all means.
Yeah. By your experience, like how often clients like to see houses? Like, how often do you set up a day, like, oh, let's do one day out of the week, or?
Well, I've worked with the buyers that I've worked with. One owned a home, so we were selling, and I've worked with few that just never bought before, and they're just in that crunch time frame, because you got to ask them, okay, if they're renting, what's their time frame of renewing that lease, or what's your time frame that you have to get out before your lease is over. So if they say, oh, it's 3 months, I'm like, okay, well, let's do from Friday and Saturday. Let's go show houses. I don't work on Sundays. I go to church, and I need time with my family, because our work, we're just always on go mode, that we got to remember to set that expectations for your family, because you don't want to just, I've done it. I've worked throughout the time, and it's just wrong. So I'll just do like Friday and Saturday from like 9 to maybe 2, and then we'll just, they'll take like an hour. I'll like, we'll go get lunch. We'll meet at this house or whatever. I usually book 4 on a Friday, and then well, Friday will be like evening or whatever, whenever they get out of work, and then Saturday I'll do however many that I think would be okay with them, because sometimes they're just looking, if they're on your search, they'll like, oh, can we see this house, this house, this house, this house, this house? And you got to remember to tell them whenever you're booking, because you're going to book their showing time. You got to remember to tell them, you got to tell me an hour before, because if I can't get you in that time frame because showing time already has something scheduled, then you got to see what's available, because they say, okay, we're available from 1 to 3, and showing time has that booked. You're going to have to come back to them like, okay, look, we can do it 1 to 3, but you know what? They have 4 to 5:30. Would that be okay with you? And they're like, yeah, whatever. But just
So you just ask them and see what's good for them.
Yeah. But they're really good at telling you. Like, okay. they'll. I mean, buyers usually like, hey, I saw this house. Can we go like now? And like, well, let me see what's on showing time. And yeah, if it's open, absolutely. Mm-hmm. But just remember, like, don't stop what you're doing to satisfy them, because make yourself worthy too. And that's important. They'll wait. They trust you enough that they'll wait that hour if you're busy. So just remember that. And I could tell you that now. Before, when I just started, I was like, okay, I need to hurry up, But now I'm learning how to value my time. Like, no, I'm really busy right now, because I got to pick up my son at 3, and who's gonna pick him up if I go? And no. So as you guys are like going in, value your time and make and set that expectation. But they'll wait.
See a home. I'm going to ask you to rate this house on a scale of 1 to 10. 9 or 10 means we're writing an offer. And just FYI, there are it's very good chance they're not going to be getting 10s. Again, this goes back to setting up the fact that there are no perfect homes. You're always going to have to sacrifice someone. Where can I find the must-have list you are reading? I'm actually not reading one. This is coming off my head, right? I'm just rattling this off as if I were in a buyer consult. If you look on your home wish list page, there's a lot of good questions to start there. I think if I were to go another step further, I would go to my MLS, where you search for homes, where you build a search in your MLS and look at all of the fields you can search by. And all those questions are things you could ask to start to narrow down and figure out what someone's looking for in a home. And be very mindful of the fact that they may not have answers to a lot of it. There's going to be a lot of I don't knows there, especially if they're first-time home buyers. So that's your home wish list. Neighborhood insights. Demonstrate expertise. This is actually a really good one, where you can use neighborhood snaps to make yourself look like a genius, even if you don't know everything about a neighborhood. So if you tend to work in an area often, here's how I would use this page. I built, and this is just one use case, right? I built my business off of open houses. So I built my business off of open houses. I would use the neighborhood I met.
I got to tell you guys, I've gotten all my clients through open houses. I love open houses. I think it helps you communicate with them and get to, you know, they don't know you don't know. Even if you don't know, it's always good to ask. But I just love everything about open houses. It gives you an opportunity to, it's lead generating. So you go up to them, make them feel secure, make them feel welcome, and you know, if they have questions, then if they don't have an agent, majority they're gonna go to an open house to kind of see what's in that open house and if that agent could help them into a house, if it's not that one. So I'm a big fan of open houses. I love doing them. I've gotten all my clients through them. And it's just a really good resource to get yourself out there because you could promote it on your social media. And as more as you promote, like even if you guys don't have nothing going on, ask another agent like, hey, I know you got an open house, but do you mind if I just share it on my page, in my Facebook? Because it attracts your friends on Facebook, your friends on all your social medias. And that's what I did when I first started. I didn't know anything, but going in, I saw like, oh, this person had an open house, this person had a new listing, and well, everybody in the office, they're more welcome to like, yeah, go ahead and share it. You know, I need buyers for this listing, or yeah, the more people that come, maybe there's an opportunity that, you know, it'll sell. So just ask that. And the more you post on your social media, the more attraction you get, the more people know that who you are as an agent, and they'll likely to call you guys if they're interested in listing.
I was going to share something. On another class that I took, somebody mentioned that, hey, if you're going to go open houses, just to practice to open the Supra box.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, just show it on social media, like, hey,
Yeah.
showing this house or something like that, even though you're just showing it to yourself.
Yeah.
And I did that, and I had a few people ask me, hey, so you're really busy now, so you're showing houses. I'm
Yeah,
like,
you'd be
yes, I am.
surprised how many people.
Yes.
You'd be surprised how many people look at your social media without you even realizing. I have you know, Facebook, Instagram, and my Snapchat. Snapchat, I have more like family than I do you know, or whatever. But make yourself a Facebook page, you know, and then post on your Facebook page, and then to share it on your personal, and then and invite people to like your page too. The more you like, they'll see all that, because they'll see what's posting from your business page, and they'll look at your business page, and you'll have more attraction like that. But yeah, do that.
It was really interesting because I usually don't post stuff. I'm very private, and you know, like, oh gosh, I have to go.
No,
and do
you got it. Absolutely. Yeah, you're good. Keep doing that.
As the insight for the buyer guide I gave them and a neighboring neighborhood. Here's where you're going to bring a tremendous amount of value. People typically stay like in their bubble. We all do this, right? Like we stay in our little 5-mile bubble of the place we live now. And so we don't know a lot outside of that. What are the lookalike neighborhoods for the ones where you're taking people out to see homes, right? So in Austin, I'm going to use the example of Circle C. The neighborhood here in Austin, in Southwest Austin, if area of town isn't necessarily important to people, find the lookalike neighborhoods, right? Grab neighborhood insights from a couple different neighborhoods that have the same profile from a listing price and selling price and price per square foot perspective. Know those lookalike neighborhoods, and you're going to be providing tremendous value to your clients. Also, I'm finding out in designs, the presentation has 5 pages of questions. There's 5 pages of questions in designs. Remember, the more questions you ask, the better your time will be used with your clients. Andrew's saying 3 or 4 per day is his max. 5, any more than 5, they start to run together. It's totally true. The first time you go out and try and show 9 houses to one group of people, you're going to realize you'll never do that again. So neighborhood insights, I'm using these to demonstrate my knowledge of different neighborhoods around town. This is a way to set yourself apart and let your client understand how you bring tremendous value to them. Where do you find the information to complete the neighborhood insights details? So you can actually find this in neighborhood snaps on Kelly or in Command. Or if you're new to real estate, I'd actually go try and do this on your own a little bit. Go to your MLS and start to run comps for different neighborhoods. It's a really, really good way to get to perfect your craft, right? To sharpen your sword. Go try and do this on your own. Go take a neighborhood and try and find the average listing price on your own. Go run the comps. You're going to need to do that when they go to buy a house. You're going to want to get really specific around comps. So pick a home in a neighborhood that they might be interested in and go run comps around it and then actually give the information here. Anonymous question, where do I get the buyer guide? It's in designs in Command. So left-hand side of the screen, about 2/3 of the way down is designs. That's where you can see there's 2 different buyer guides there, and I suggest that you customize them all. Customize them to fit your thing, and then understand every time you go in and make a new one, it's going to be different for every client. If this was different for every client, that'd be awesome. If you had minimal changes, you did every time, different neighborhoods, you put in something about the person if you knew ahead of time, right? Stacy in Atlanta says, we sent a questionnaire developed in Google Forms in advance of the buyer consult. It's impressive and very efficient, totally. The more you can streamline this, the better, right? It's just gonna make you look like a pro. Whether you send them a Google form, whether you send them a sheet to fill out by hand, or if you go over this in person. You can send it beforehand, or you can ask the questions in person. Asking the questions in person is a really good way to cement the relationship. Also, if you don't feel confident, like you can go through your buyer consultation in an amount of time that feels comfortable, asking questions is a great way to fill the time. And it demonstrates you wanting to get to know your client. What ahas do you have from this page, the Neighborhood Insights page? Feel free to let me know, slido.com, 1437. If you don't put in questions, Dawn doesn't have to send them through. And she just remembers how hungry she is because she hasn't had lunch, just like me. All right, next is explaining the process, how buying a home works. So one of the coolest things about this buyer guide is you could change up the order. If you were more comfortable talking about these things in a different order, you could talk about how buying a home works at the very beginning, and then you could go into the consultation. You could talk about the home first. You could talk about getting pre-qualified first. As long as you talk about them all, you can order this buyer guide any way you want. How buying a home works. 1, partner with an agent. 2, get pre-approved for a loan. 3, find your new home. 4, make your offer and negotiate the terms. What's the difference between pre-approval and pre-qualification? I'm going to make you go find that answer. I can't give you all the answers. This is a great opportunity to call a lender and ask them the difference. Build a relationship with a lending partner, maybe a Keller Mortgage. Find your local Keller Mortgage representative or one that someone in your office uses and has had a good experience with, and talk to them about the difference between pre-approval and pre-qualification. There is a difference.
And whenever you guys are talking to like y'all's preferred lender, ask them what they could offer your clients, because
So
I mean you're referring them your business. So always, you know, whenever you're talking to them, like, what can you offer my clients? You know, like, why should I
add this to your,
you know, what do you offer? And they just like, oh well, whatever they're needing. I mean, I do first time home programs, I do down payment assistance. I do this, I mean, whatever they offer, because you're sending them your business. And I mean,
we don't get anything for you using them.
It starts with you, and you don't want to misrepresent somebody with an awful lender. So that's important.
Cost and $1,000 closing credit. Really, really good deal. If you're in Canada or New York, you don't have this. You don't have Keller Mortgage, so you don't need this sheet. Canada or New York, you can take this out of your presentation because you don't have Keller Mortgage yet. Doesn't mean we will be there, we're just not there yet. Andrew says Kelly Snap for a zip code works really well. That is true. Kelly Snap for a zip code works great for insights. So, affiliated business arrangement disclosure. If you're in a state that uses Keller Mortgage, you have to have this in your presentation. By the way, that's all of them except New York. All of them except New York. Real value, real experience. This is an interesting one. This is your value proposition. Heather is correct. A pre-approval is better than a pre-qualification. But you guys need to go figure out what that means. So this is talking about you. Your value proposition. Newsflash. The more time you spend talking about you, the less time you're building a relationship with someone. The majority of your buyer consultation, or really any consultation or any conversation you're having in general, even personal, the more time you're talking about yourself, chances are the less building of a relationship you're actually doing. The vast majority of this presentation should be about the customer, not about you. In fact, in my presentation, I would almost gloss over this. If I was actually delivering this presentation, I would come to this page and I would say something like, if you want to know a little bit more about me, feel free to read it here.
I'm going to pause it real quick. So I have Madeline, she created this. She's a principal on the team. And she did like this home, and you could do all this in Command, like make yourself like a little booklet of everything that you offer. Just a little bit intel about yourself, what's your value, thanking them for trusting you in the process. Do a little bit of like questions and answers. That way it eases them in whenever they're looking at it. I don't go in and be like, okay, here's this, or I don't do page from page. I just say, you know what, this is a booklet that I just give my buyers. You could review it and go over it whenever you have time. And this is our team, and it has everything that would probably help you and some for a better understanding of how the process works. It's a lot, but sometimes they'll just go through it and be like, hey, I saw this, and I didn't know, it takes this, or like option period and earnest money and stuff like that. I could give you one. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Question you might ask: what if I'm new to the business and I don't have anything to put on this page? Leverage the stats from your market center. Mm-hmm. Remember, you are a part of a giant team.
I don't think anybody envies sharing whatever they have because they got it from someone else. So it's only right to share whatever you have, and you just make it in your own.
Who is on your team? If you are just a solo agent and you want to talk about your team helps you do all these things, your team is your market center. That means your MCA is on your team. And that means your director of compliance is on your team. And that means that your team leader is on your team. All of these people are on your team. So pull whatever stats you want. These are all people that are willing and able to help you through this process. The bottom there, you see our core values here, right? Win-win, Y4C, 2 T's at the bottom. Yeah, use KWRI stats to talk about being nationally successful. Talk about the fact that we're the largest real estate brokerage in the world, that the world has ever seen or known. So your value proposition, this is your chance to talk about you. Again, the more you're talking about you, the less relationship you're building. This should be 95% focused about the client, what they want, what they need, what makes this a win for them. Know your numbers. So there's a sheet on here about knowing your numbers. If you're on a team, what are your team's numbers? If you're part of your market center, what are your market center numbers? Go get all that information. Think of it as like a little scavenger hunt. And then use the information that you have in order to build your presentation. What numbers would you use to highlight your value proposition? What credentials will you share in your buyer presentation? If you're representing a buyer, easy stats, if you have them on your own and you can track them, are how much money you've saved clients over list price. How much have you negotiated under list price for your clients? I love to talk about how quickly my clients find their home. That helps you in more than one way. It shows that you're an expert and you can find people the houses that they need. It also helps you set the expectation that you're not going to show someone 100 houses. My average client finds their house in 7 showings, because we ask a lot of really good questions up front and we do a really good job of making sure we only show you houses that make sense for you.
I'm usually, I'm gonna pause this. I don't know. I mean, everybody has their like luck and whatnot, but whenever you schedule with your buyers showings and you're getting in there and they want to do an offer, for some odd reason, I've been very fortunate to get them under contract by the fourth house. That's why it's really important to ask them, exactly what they're looking for. Because they're going to see a house and they're just going to fall in love. And, and communicating is really good too. So that's really important.
Then actually go do the consultation. So now that you've built it, practice it and go do it. Partner up with someone in the room. If you guys are at a market center and you're watching this, I assume there's a lot of people doing that. I hope there's a lot of people doing that. Find a partner, find a buddy in the room, and practice your buyer consultations on each other. Make this part of your day. Remember, this is a job that if you don't do it full time, you're not going to get full time results. If you treat this job like a part-time job, you're going to make part-time money. And part-time money typically isn't enough for most of us that got into real estate. We didn't get into real estate to make part-time money. So make sure a part of your day, every day, is practicing your buyer consultation and your seller consultation. All right, we're not going to actually role model this now, but spend time. Page 18, there's something awesome on page 18, so you should look there. Oh, your script book, or you can do this. Yep, script book on page 18. So spend 5 minutes after this class is over to actually role model this buyer presentation. I would say spend way more than 5 minutes. Like if you're doing 5 minutes on this, it's the bare minimum. Spend 15 minutes every day doing this for the next month. So by the time you're actually having it, you're stone cold and it's totally natural. You heard me talking about it today, and I hope that it sounded natural. It very much is for me. I've done this enough times that it's become totally natural and ingrained in me. Close with the buyer rep agreement. Get the buyer rep signed. Remember, that was our number one goal leaving this meeting, was to have a client, actually have a client when we get done.
And I'll tell you guys what I do
That.
on this buyer representation.
People are going to ask you questions. In my state, that's a 10-page document. The buyer representation document and the supporting documents are 10 pages long. Make sure that you can easily explain what that means to your client. You're going to get a lot of people that look at you with glassy eyes after you talk to them about all the things they want at home and then put a 10-page legal document in front of them. Make sure you can explain this in a friendly way that's comfortable. All right, ahas to achievements. This is the part where I really need your help. If we don't have any ahas here, it's going to be really tough for me to talk about nothing for the next few minutes. Slido.com 1437. How has your thinking changed after watching this? What are ideas and mindsets?
I'm going to end it because it's just a lot of questions.
What do you feel differently about? What was me?
I'm going to get on Zoom real quick. Okay. Do y'all have any ahas, Alicia, on Zoom?
No.
I'm going to talk to you guys about how I present the buyer representation agreement. I know I should do it like right then and there whenever I lock it in. I really don't. I probably a wrong thing to say right now, but I usually just wait until I put an offer on a house. I'll send them all the documents with the buyer's representation in there. That way it's signed. It's risky, yes, but not everybody wants to sign right away, and not everybody wants to sign because they feel like they have to commit. I don't want my clients to feel like they have to commit to me. I want to be a resource to help them and guide them into everything. So I really don't give it to them. I show them the IBS form and I get that signed. I just go in, I'm like, okay, this is just for me to show you real estate and to be able to assist you and ask any questions on your behalf. And they'll sign that. But the buyer's rep, they're really skeptical on signing anything. So I don't do it right then and there. I just wait until I put an offer and I sit on all the documents and they just boom, 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 boom. I've never had an unsuccessful that they don't sign at the end. It's usually, that's what I do. I know that's what you want to do to lock it in, but who's going to work with you will work with you at the end of the day. I've been very fortunate that I've had really good clients. Every transaction is different, and these buyers that I'm working with, we went under contract. These are my VA buyers, and it is crazy. But we got under contract. Everything was good, and their pre-approval letter expired. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like don't do this to me now. We've already negotiated. Better call your lender and tell them to extend the pre-approval. Little things like that I've run into.
How long does it last, or how many days?
Some lenders do it like 3 months. Some people do it 6 months. I think it depends on the loan too.
Okay.
That's a lender question that you guys could talk to your lender about. So that's usually what how I do the buyer's rep agreement. But I would suggest, I don't know if you guys have done any open houses, but get involved in them open houses. You would be surprised of how many people go in without an agent and that are just looking to, like move forward into something. And they were just there to look at the house, and it gives you a big window and opportunity to get in there and help them. Have y'all done any open house?
Yeah. I shadowed 2 weekends ago. I did a shadowing, and then last weekend I did an open house Saturday and Sunday both. And then, as a matter of fact, today I'm going to go and open a house to show some clients for somebody else with Keller Williams, just to show their clients.
Yeah, and it gives you like
2 appointments. So
I did that too. So
That's relationships.
it will give you
experience.
Yeah, it'll give you the experience, and it'll give you that you'll know what to do with your clients. Even like they're not your clients, but treat them as your clients. I'm like, hey, what's up? How you doing? And you'd be surprised. But then you'll be more secure, and you won't feel so intimidating, because I'm a very intimidated person, and I do not. Each personality is very different. Not everybody's gonna like have that same. My seller, he was like a butt. He was just like, I already know what I want, this, that, and I mean, our personalities just didn't click. I'm just like, oh, this guy's making it so difficult, like, okay, well, and he wanted top dollar for it. He wanted this, he wanted that. I'm like, okay, well, I can't promise you this, but let's do this. And this is what I bring to the table. And this is what we do on open houses. And you cannot be there, or give me a time frame and then you could come back. I mean, present all this to your clients in a really nice, pretty way. That way they know time frame, you know their time frame, and it's just a good understanding on both ends, and it helps a lot. It really does. But yeah, any questions that you guys have? I really hope I like giving you guys good tips, because it's overwhelming. I mean, even just, it's nerve-wracking whenever you're in front of them, because you're like, in your mind, you're like, man, I really want them to like be my buyers, and I want to help them in any way. I get emotionally attached to my clients, probably the worst thing I could do, because I'm just like, okay, well, I really hope you get this offer accepted, but if you don't, let's just keep moving forward on the next house, or, little things like that. And then sometimes they get a little upset whenever their offer doesn't get accepted. They're like, oh, all right, well, the next house that you guys see, likely they don't want to see it. But like, don't get discouraged. It happens. If your offer didn't get accepted, it's not your house. It just wasn't meant for you. So let's just keep looking, because your house is out there. Just keep them secure on everything that they do, because they doubt themselves already, and you're just there to kind of help them. Even though if you don't know the answer, just say, okay, let me get back with you. And they're perfectly okay with it. I mean, I haven't run into a buyer, I'm like, oh, well, I would want to know now. Like, okay, well, you know what? I have another question, but I'm going to get back with you, because I want to reassure something real quick before I even answer that. Or sometimes they say, hey, so do you think I'll get this house? Or what do you think? What do you think about this house? And I always tell them, I love this house. I think it's a really nice house. And if you see like something, wrong or whatever, I'm like, okay, but I do see like there's a crack right there. If you want to put an offer on it, when we do the inspection, maybe let's consider a foundation inspection just to be on the safe side, because I'll hate to put you in a house that's going to cause you problems the first year. Tips like that, oh my God, it's like heaven to them. They're like, dang, this girl,
I was gonna ask you about that. The house that I'm showing today, I was looking at the documents in MLS, and he had a foundation repaired back in 2017, I believe. And I saw that, and I already pointed out to my clients. I was like, hey, just so you know, he had a foundation issue. And going with your experience, does that usually cause a problem with the loan, or not really?
Well, I'm dealing with that issue right now with my buyers. They that house had foundation issues, and we did a foundation inspection. The seller, she has lifetime warranty on foundation, so usually sellers will have it. So what she did is she put all that the seller agent sent me that document, and she got her foundation people out there, and they're going to cover it. So with my buyers, I just, that's something that we did negotiate, and there's probably other things to it, but the negotiation process, I'm like, okay, well, when you talk to the agent, like, okay, well, this house foundation, this needs this, get the list of repairs and put a number to it. That way they know, okay, well, they're going to fix this, they're not going to fix that, but they're going to give you $3,000 on closing. That usually eases them, like, oh, okay, well, we could put that money into whatever needs to be replaced. Negotiations are crazy, and that's a whole different topic, but that's something that, sometimes it's a red flag, like nobody wants to deal with foundation. I have out-of-state buyers as well. So I'm like, this is clay soil. This is not Northwest, Texas. Our house is going to shift. There's going to be this, there's going to be that. And it's okay. It's just perfectly normal. And, and that's hard to like click them and let them understand, because they're like, oh, well, we didn't have that problem. Like, well, it's Texas, it is what it is. Or like there's people like, oh, that needs repair, or, like that's going to be an arm and a leg. And that's when you ease them in, like, don't worry, we're going to negotiate. Worst case scenario, if they don't like it, then we just terminate and, on to the next. Each transaction is different.
When you go and your clients are like, they want to put an offer on a house, so you just go to your office and fill it out on DocuSign and then send it to them? Or how do you do that when they say, I do want to put an offer?
Okay, well, whenever my clients want to put an offer, I get in there and, I get the 104 contract, I get everything, in there. And then I usually ask for, I usually ask my buyers to pay title, because I want to make sure they get a good, clean title, even though title's going to do it. But I want to make sure they're all clear. You would be surprised.
Title insurance?
Yes. No, I'm talking about like just, title. So I usually have my buyers pay, this is whatever they want to do, but my buyers will pay title and they'll pay for new survey. And then usually I'll have my buyers maybe 150 towards like HOA fees, because seller will like have to do all that. And that's it. And just write a pretty little sentence saying, my buyers would like to put this offer. This was a beautiful home. Please let me know if you have any questions. Fingers crossed our offer gets accepted. If not, would you consider us as a backup offer? Because you'd be surprised how many offers get accepted and they don't fall through, but you would want to be a backup offer, because if you're still showing, and that's a house that they were already wanting to put an offer in, it's just good to even say that. And in the agent's mind, they're like, oh, okay, well, good to know. And then if something doesn't fall through, they know, oh, these people wanted to be a backup offer. Let me call them to see if their client's still interested in this. So each transaction is very different.
Are you having your buyers write offer letters?
Yes.
I mean, yeah, like personal letters.
Well, I'll do the letter, but I just asked them if they could write like just a short summary of,
Yeah.
you know, who they are as a person, what they do, and you know, and then I'll customize and I'll ask for a picture. So I'll like put it in a Word, they'll put their picture, a little summary, and then make it all pretty and send it with my offer. Yeah, so that's what I do. And you would be surprised. At one of my buyers clothes and whatever, and they were looking for you know, a 4-bedroom, 3-bath. They didn't have any kids, but she was wanting, you know, she was wanting to have a family. So we just, you know, she was like, we're wanting to look for a big house, even though it's just me and my husband. I mean, he's an accountant, she's a teacher, and I mean, they got a beautiful big home and it's just them two, and now they're expecting. And so it's just perfect because they're growing their family. So whenever I was doing it, I was like, they're looking to expand their family, boom, 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 whatever, whatever. And they got it. So I think they work. I mean,
Yeah.
It's a beautiful experience.
That's awesome. That's a great idea. I haven't
Yeah.
thought of that.
Yeah, I mean, just
That's really good.
whatever works for you and whatever you guys feel like it's gonna work will work. And remember, who's gonna work with you will work with you. And this career is, I say job, but this career is very, it is stressful, but it's so rewarding because you see what you have done and what you could accomplish, and whatever you think that you couldn't do, you're more than capable of doing. At the end of the day, I mean, when I first started, I was like, man, I don't have nothing. I don't know what to do. You know, where do I even start? But then I was like, no, I got to get this mindset out of it. Like, I got my real estate license for a reason, and I want to help families. I come from a very poor background, so I was like, I want to help anybody and everybody as possible. And it's just a privilege to be, you know, a resource to help them and get them in their dream home or get them into their starter home and sell their home. I just sold a house. They were from Oregon, and they lived in that house for 8 years, and I got them into their dream home, and they're downsizing. Their boys already graduated and whatnot. So it's all that, you know. It's just like, dang, it's so rewarding. But that's why I say, once you accomplish everything that you accomplished, take a step back and reflect on everything. That way you don't get burnt out. That's the worst thing to do, is get burnt out. But you're there for a reason, for a purpose. You got your license, you know, to do this and more, and just run with it. Alicia, are you okay in Zoom?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Well, it is almost 11, and Alicia, my number is in there in my email. So if any questions that you have, and if I could help you in any way, you know, I'll love to be a resource for you. And if I have a listing coming up, which I will be, and you want to do an open house, you're more than welcome to reach out, and I'll love to. If you want to shadow me on it, you're more than welcome to do that.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I was just thinking about that. That's something that I need.
Yeah. Well, everybody has a starting point. So, I mean, I started shadowing, and it was good. It was good information. I saw how that other agent would do it. And then when I just started shadowing and then I did my own open house, I just took a little bit of that and a little bit of this and a little bit and made it my own. So, absolutely.
Is that a benefit that you learned from joining a team, or was it just, did you join a team right off the bat?
No, I was an independent agent, and then I just me and my teammate, we just got along really well, and we worked very good together. And I joined her team maybe like 4 months as I was an individual agent, and it just worked. You know, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and I'm very grateful to be there. Each team is different, but the team that I'm on, she's very flexible. She's helped me. She's a mentor, and I think it's important because you don't want to work with anybody that you just don't want to work with. It's the uncomfortable feeling. But no, I joined a team willingly. I loved her drive. I wanted that drive too. And I'm so glad I made that, because she's really good and I learn every day on it. So that's why. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna email you, or I'll probably text you, and then you can kind of give me the time to do it.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I said I'm going to email you and then text you my phone number so you can kind of give me your times that you're available.
Yes. Okay, yeah. Go whatever you could text me, you could email me, and I'm fast responsive. So please do that. That way I could keep your information. And if I know any open houses opportunities, I always share it. And it's, you know, whoever responds first. I usually go through that and I'll let you guys know, hey, it's taken. But yeah, text me your information, and if I have something on my end going on, or if I know someone else, then I'll reach out to you and let you know when's your, like, what's your schedule like and if you're available.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for such a great class. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and good luck with everything, Alicia.
Thank you. Have a good one.